Hello folks and welcome to the weekend warm-up here from the Autodromo di Monza in the Royal Park on the outskirts of Milan for the 2020 Italian Grand Prix. Will Buxton and Lawrence Barretto with you as always. And Lawrence, it's great to be back in Italy, great to be back in Monza.
Brilliant.
But it's weird, I got weird without the fans, man, even on a Thursday, just to have, or to lack the excitement, the ambience that they bring, just the fever and the insanity.
Normally when you just drive into the circuit, you go underneath the tunnel and you can't even exit the tunnel because everyone's just
so
kind
many
of
fans
swarming it around. And they're just so excited to catch a glimpse of anyone who works in Formula One. And there was none of that. I don't think I've ever got into this circuit any quicker before.
No, it's a very odd atmosphere here. There are fans though in the grandstands this weekend, cardboard cutouts of fans who paid for the privilege for that, which is lovely. And one of them, Charles Leclerc, he's paid for his own picture to be over there. So I think he will become the first and only driver probably in history to be both in the Grand Prix and watching it at the same time. We need to start though this week down here at Williams. The big news of the day, of course, which is that the Williams family after this weekend will no longer be a part of the Williams team.
When we look back in the history of Formula One, those encyclopedias, this is going to be a massive moment in the sport's history, because after 40 years, Sir Frank and Claire, the family, are leaving Formula One. It's a huge thing. I think it's really sad, I think, in many ways. You go up and down this paddock, you see so many people upset, sad, emotional about it, because this is a team that's much loved in Formula One.
It is, but it's happened because they have buyers, they have new owners, there's a new board that will be in place as of, I think, next week. Who is on that board?
So it's two of them are involved in Duraliton Capital. I'll eventually learn to say their name properly. Matthew Savage and Darren Phillips. And then there's a guy who works as an advisory, James Matthews, who many people will know as the husband of Pippa Middleton, also a racing driver in his own right.
He was Formula Renault champion.
Exactly.
Yeah, tried in F3 as well.
So successful. And that was with Manor Motorsport. Someone who's linked with Manor Motorsport, Graham Loudon, sporting director at Manor, is advising them.
Interesting. Fred Vasseur apparently gave him his engines back in the day as well.
There you go.
If you like your reality TV, Spencer Matthews, also on the Eden Rock board of Made in Chelsea, his brother.
Okay, that's gone over my head, but I'll take your word for that.
There you go. Don't worry, I had to look that one up. Look, sad, obviously, that the Williams family no longer will be involved with the team, but it's a new era for the sport. It's a new era for the team. As you were saying earlier today, Claire has done what she needed to do. She's got the new Concorde over the line, which will benefit a team like Williams. And she's kept them afloat through difficult times and taken them to a place where now they have a future ahead of them and investment in new owners.
The last couple of years have been really difficult for Williams just because the financial climate has been such that getting sponsors has been hard. COVID's hit, didn't work out very well with their title sponsor Rocket.
Yeah.
So these last couple of years have been really tough on them just for her to keep the team afloat because it's her family's team, so it's added pressure. And I think it just got to a point now where, like you just said, they've solidified their future. She's been in Formula One her whole life.
Yeah.
Now this is an opportunity for her to go and try something different.
Yeah, and to go away and be a mum for a bit and live her life. Right, we're down at Williams, we're walking past Haas. Difficult weekend for them last time out in Spa. Of course, the double power unit change that they needed really curtailing their weekend. Tough times. Really
tough times. I was impressed at how they fought back actually in Spa. Oh, you missed. Good news. Really impressed at how they came back that weekend. I think they're going to have a difficult weekend this weekend. Ferrari power, as we know, and we've talked about much of the time, there isn't much of it, and you need that around here. So I think it's going to be a tough old weekend for them. No,
it really will be. Both Roman and Kevin making absolutely no bones about it. It's going to be a hard weekend. A hard weekend also, and we'll get down to them, for Alfa Romeo. Of course, the surprise of Spa, really. Everyone talked about how Ferrari finished where they qualified 13th and 14th, but you forget the fact that Carlos didn't start the race. So they actually lost a place during the Grand Prix, and they lost that place to Kimi Raikkonen, P12 at the flag. And talking to Kimi today, you know, I said a couple of races ago you were last on the grid. Spa, you were ahead, legitimately on merit, ahead of the Ferrari. And he said, yeah, you know, we've actually made the steps, we've started to get there. It's piecemeal, it's small, but it's something.
So I'm starting to feel that there is a sense of progress when you talk to Kimi. I think right at the start of the year you could see that things weren't happening for them, and he wasn't afraid to say it. Last week in Spa, they had made progress on a circuit that they weren't expecting to impress on. I think that we can expect more baby steps from them this weekend, but it's going to be baby steps, and it's going to be very hard for them to be challenging for points.
Antonio needs a good weekend. Crashed again at Spa 2 years in a row, but then he came to Monza last year and had one of his best weekends of the season. So hoping for good things.
Definitely, I think he's one of these people who stays really motivated, really confident about his chances. And I think that here, I know that no fans to impress, but being here, I think it's going to be a good thing.
Absolutely. Let's cross the way. Racing Point, a team who disappointed. I think it's fair to say, in Spa. They should have been up there competing for the second row. They should have been up there really fighting at the sharp end. And yet, where were they? They didn't turn up.
No, and both drivers at the end of the race weren't really sure how to explain it. Checo, talking to him today in the pen, he seemed to say that they've got answers, but it's not a quick fix. So it's not going to be like they're going to be able to turn it night and day for this weekend. They know this is probably going to be another circuit that's going to be a little bit trickier for them. So I wouldn't expect massive results from them. I think it's going to be another tough weekend.
But why? Okay, because this car is supposed to be a rocket ship. Okay, it's essentially last year's Mercedes, a car which went well at all of these tracks on lone downforce trim. Why can't the team get on top of it? Why can't they dial the downforce off the thing and have it be, the rocket, that arrow, pink arrow, that it should be?
So they've got good people at this team. We know that. Some of these people have been here 10, 15 years, but it's still a smaller team or a mid-sized team. And to expect them to make one of the best cars on the grid, if not the best car at the moment, work in the way that a team that's got so many more people operate in the same way, it's a massive ask. It's not, in many ways, the car that they can make work that quickly.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And particularly when we thought they would be knocking on the door of the top teams, fighting for fourth, or as it turns out with Ferrari doing so badly, possibly even third in the Constructors' Championship. And it's just not happening for them. It's really not working out for them. Honestly, the big surprise for me this year is just how inconsistent Racing Point are, and how uncompetitive they've proven on the low downforce, big high-speed tracks where we've expected them to really excel.
I think they've been disappointed in that performance as well. When they started the season, they were very confident, and that confidence has dissipated as we've moved along. I think that's why they were so keen to get Checo back at Silverstone, because they know those two races could have been huge for them. They of course weren't going to develop their car anymore. I remember very early on they said they weren't going to do it, so the early part of the season was critical. And as we come down further this way, there's going to be a load more teams who are developing and understanding their car and doing a much better job.
Outstanding segue, Lawrence, into Renault, who just punched where we finally thought they would be after pre-season testing. They said they've unlocked the car, they've unlocked the potential in it, and boy didn't we see it. Esteban Ocon and especially Daniel Ricciardo in those closing laps of the race. Okay, yeah, they've been smart with their tyres and they've held on to something in them so that they could push at the end. But what pace, what a finish.
There was pure performance in there, and I think that's what's pretty exciting for Daniel. That's why he was so happy even today, a few days afterwards. He was still really pleased with where the team have come to. They've unlocked a few things in that car. They understand it a little bit better, both Daniel and Esteban as well as the team as a whole. And they've got really high hopes that their efficient car, and that's what that car is, efficient, is going to be great round here.
Well, on the basis of Spa, do we think they can fight for a podium?
I think that given he finished fourth and he actually wasn't that far away from Red Bull, I think there's a good chance that yes, they can fight for a podium. And yes, Cyril might be getting a tattoo.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's quite gutsy going for that.
I think so. Daniel was saying a honey badger, so I'm kind of hoping that I think that can happen. I genuinely think it can happen this weekend.
If they need a good tattooist, I know one in Milan.
I thought you were going to offer to do yourself.
No, my snakes I had done in there. But he only really does snakes, not honey badgers.
Ah, okay. And I'm not sure how big Cyril's going to want this tattoo.
I mean, it'll be like a dot, and he can just be it's a honey badger from really, really far away. Yeah, they are looking great. Another team who are hoping to look great this weekend, after a really up and down Spa, is McLaren. Of course, a tale of two halves for them. One car didn't even make it to the lights. The other one, and this is the interesting thing with Lando, of course, because they were so worried about the power unit, because they were so worried about the engine, he didn't have modes to mess around with in the race. He had to just sit in one engine mode for the whole Belgian Grand Prix and said, look, yeah, we've all got to do it from this weekend, but we're not missing out on that much. Sure, it's annoying that we don't get to have it to overtake, but then we also don't have it to defend. So, yeah, it is what it is. But he's had a whole race to actually get used to it.
I think it shines a light on what a great job Lando's doing. And while things are going really well for him, they're not going so well for Carlos. Spa seems to hate him, doesn't it? Because he's 3 races now. I don't think he's had a chance.
2020 seems to hate it. He just hasn't had any luck at all, and it's all been out of his own hands. He hasn't. It's not his own doing as to why he's so far back. But he says it's really difficult now to keep dwelling on it, and he is dwelling on it. He's going back and he's counting how many points he's lost. He's counting all of his missed opportunities. He says to give himself a little bit of confidence that it's not his fault and to turn the page. But I said, well, how can you do that if you keep dwelling on it, keep looking back on it without getting frustrated, without getting angry? And it's one of the tough things for him, I think.
He's a very positive kind of guy, and I think he's got his dad, obviously Carlos Sainz Sr., who's a sort of wise voice in his head, and I think it helps that he's got someone there he can talk to when things are tough, and he's really needed him this year because, as you were saying, nothing's gone right. Apart from that result in Spain, he really hasn't had anything go his way.
And they need the results to start coming in because, of course, that fight for third in the Constructors' Championship is on. The battle with Renault. Ferrari just about lingering there, but for how much longer in third? That's the big question that we've got coming into this weekend. How long can Ferrari hold on to that fight for third? Incredibly. But here we are. Welcome to 2020. Now let's talk about the 2 teams in blue, and we'll start with the ones in blue and white. AlphaTauri, another stellar weekend in Spa for Pierre Gasly. Top marks for the guy. How was he? You spoke to him today, right?
In the pen, it was very difficult for him to understand why it's been such a good year. Because I asked him that very question, and he kind of rolled off, the team have done a great job, joked that it's a good driver of the car, team are working really well. But I think we were talking about inconsistency down there with Racing Point. These guys have got the consistency, and I think that's what is really helping Pierre get into that rhythm. Even I know Danny hasn't scored points in the last 2 races. I think he's been 11th and 12th, so he's on the fringes, and I think that just shows what a great package they've got.
And it shows every weekend that they're 11th, 12th in qualifying, but always with a car that can push into the top 10 on race day. The question mark, though, and the team have said we're not going to change drivers around this year up at Red Bull, because you've got the constant questions about Red Bull and AlphaTauri and blah blah blah. Talking to Max today, he said, and it was his words, we're just talking, just shooting the breeze about the competitiveness of the car and taking the fight to Mercedes. And he said, I'm doing a good job. And he used, and a couple of times he used the word I, not we. And Lewis had that little veiled comment, didn't he, after the race last time out. He knows what it's like to have a driver not coming up to his level. Bit of a dig at Hakey, bit harsh. Top 10 fastest driver of all time, apparently.
And a race winner.
But the pressure's not on Alex from the team.
No.
But Lewis is starting to ramp that pressure on, just with the little comments that he's making, and Max with little comments like, I'm the only one taking the fight to Mercedes at the moment, not we're taking it, I'm taking it. Whether intentional or not, it's very clear.
That's Max being the alpha male, isn't it? And assert his authority in that
team.
Not
helpful, though.
It's not helpful, but I think Alex had a great weekend in Spa relative to the rest of the season. I think if he can build on that, it's important. He's saying he's not reading social media. He's saying he's not reading any of the bad
Always
press,
wise.
Which is really important, isn't it? So let's see what he's got this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really interesting one. Of course, let's not forget that Red Bull didn't run their fully low downforce package in Spa. They're expecting the rain to arrive just as Mercedes. Let's go and have a little chat about Mercedes, actually, while we're down here, because the big talk of the weekend, of course, is engine modes. Will it hamper or will it benefit Mercedes, do we think?
So Lewis was asked this in the press conference today, and the first thing he said was the very fact that they're even going anywhere near qualifying modes is just shows what a great job Mercedes have done with it to even have the brilliant modes that they do have. They don't seem to think it is going to hamper them that much, and if it does, it's going to be minute in qualifying and actually make it better for them in the race, because obviously they don't have to put the stress on the engine that they would do when they use these modes, because they're not allowed to use these modes. So actually that's slightly terrifying, isn't it, if it's actually going to help them in the race.
Little bit worrying, very, very worrying. Some nice stuff out of Lewis during the week. A lovely piece on mental health he put up on social media yesterday. I spoke to him about that and how he has been really struggling just with, he has the high of a podium and then he goes away and there's no one and he's just alone, and how he's really finding it actually very difficult to to just keep his headspace in a positive place. And if someone like Lewis, you know, we think megastar, travels the world, has the best job in the world, you know, how could he be upset, miserable, you know, how could he be suffering with his mental health? It affects everyone. It affects anyone, and you know, it doesn't choose. You can't pick and choose who mental health affects, and Lewis is really having quite a hard time.
I think that's going to help a lot of people that he said that, because there's going to be a lot of people perhaps feeling the same way, and they won't have said anything about it. And that we're on the run of 9 races in 11 weekends. It's going to be a tough time for anyone in this paddock, especially keeping into their bubbles. So I think that he said something, I think it's a really positive thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it shows that, you know, if our heroes can struggle, so can we. And it's okay to talk about it. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you need help, talk, be open and talk to people and reach out. Let's finish though, of course, here at Monza with Ferrari. Where do we start?
We start with Charles saying that he reckons that Ferrari can still get P3 in the Constructors' Championship this
Fantastic,
year.
okay.
There's a lot of teams out this paddock saying they could get P3 in the Constructors' Championship. I think that shows that they're trying to stay positive, because they've got to, especially here at Monza, going up to Mugello next weekend. But they accept that it's going to be a very difficult weekend for them. Yeah.
It really will be. We know that it's not going to be a circuit that suits them from a power potential, and what we saw in Spa really leaves big question marks over whether they'll even be able to fight into the top 10. Seb today was, I think, in a slightly better mood. He was looking at very much bigger picture of his place in the sport and the season, and how COVID has really affected his mindset of really what he sees as being important in his life as well as in the sport. And yeah, there's a real sort of contemplative nature to Seb this weekend. Maybe the fans not being here has helped with that and pulled some of that pressure off. I don't know.
It would be nice if some of that pressure could come off Seb, because I feel like we're running out of time of his time at Ferrari, and he's still got a lot to go in his career. He can do so much on track. If some of that pressure can come off and something can just go his way, maybe we can get a better result out for him, give him some confidence.
Let's hope so. Obviously, it is going to be a difficult weekend. Whether they run completely low, I mean, they're going to have to run as low downforce as trimmed out as humanly possible, and it didn't look great at Spa.
No.
They tried adding a little bit, and it went south as well. So, I mean, what do they do? I mean, the difficult part for them is we know the power unit is down. But then when you look at what Haas and Alfa Romeo were able to do in Spa, their chassis seemingly reacting better to the low downforce than was Ferrari's.
As if they haven't had enough pain already, their engine customers are performing better, which shows that it's the aero as much as the engine that's hurting them. I think I read a stat where Ferrari have always had one car in the top 10 here at Monza. I think there's a very good chance that run's going to come to an end here.
You're making some big bold claims today.
I am, yeah. I'm going pretty bold, aren't I?
Wow, okay, cool. So, let's wrap up then by looking at what do you expect to come out of this weekend?
I think that, as I say, a lot of weekends this year, Merc are looking very strong, but I think the battle is further down. We've got a Renault that could perform very strongly. We've got an AlphaTauri, especially with Gasly, that can perform strongly. I think McLaren's are going to struggle a little bit more, but they're going to be there or thereabouts where they are. I'm intrigued to see if the work that Racing Point have done in the few days between is going to help them turn things around a little bit more, because 9th and 10th at Spa just simply isn't good enough for a car of that quality. So there's quite a few nice little stories kind of ticking along down this paddock. So.
And the hope, I'm sure, for everyone, for every fan in Formula One, is that the Williams family can go out of the sport with their head held high after a positive weekend for both of their cars here at Monza. It really would be lovely to see. Can we cross our fingers and dare to dream just for a point? Just for a point.
A point would be mega, wouldn't it?
That would be great, wouldn't it? It'd be like a win for them, which shows how much times have changed, how different things are now than they once were, and of the good times that we hope stand around the corner for Williams. Still one of the most successful teams in Formula One. Thanks very much for that, mate. That was great, absolutely wonderful stuff. Thank you folks at home for following along as always. From Lawrence, from me, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.